If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray.
Present.
Trustee Holtz. Trustee Rogers. Trustee Suisse.
Present.
Trustee Pasmino.
Present.
Trustee Burrian.
Present.
Mayor Yukich.
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? We'll do reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I can start it off tonight. Again, I would like to remind residents that fall is a very busy season in Homer Glen with many family activities for residents to enjoy. The Fall Farm Fests are in full swing with thousands of visitors each week, so please drive with extra caution due to the increased traffic and pedestrians, and take time to enjoy the fall season in Homer Glen. And remember, if you're driving east and it's 5 o'clock, the sun's bright in your eyes, and there's probably a car in front of you that you didn't see. 159th Street construction update. Please use caution on 159th Street. New left turn lane striping has been added following the stage 3 traffic shift, and do not enter signs for placement at appropriate locations are being installed. Lane shifting should be expected as the road contour completes work on the sides of the road. The good news is that IDOT estimates that all 4 lanes will be open for traffic before Thanksgiving. With that, we'll turn it over to Trustee Suisse.
I have no report this evening, Mayor.
Okay. Trustee Pasmino.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting for the Parks and Recs Committee. Just to remind everybody, this Saturday we have the Trunk or Treat event. It's going to be a wonderful event with many participants, and it's going to start at 3 p.m. 3 to 5. So hope to see everybody there. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Rogers.
I have no report.
Trustee Burrian.
No report, Mayor.
Trustee Holtz.
No report.
Trustee Gray.
No report, Mayor.
Okay. Village clerk is not here. Village attorney
Nothing, Your Honor.
and public safety officials.
A few of the residents have asked me about the beard. For those of you that haven't been here, past month or so, the sheriff's deputies that you see with beards like myself are participating in a fundraiser. Twice a year, the department allows us to donate to a certain fundraiser, and if we do so, then we can grow the beard. It's a nice break for us that have to shave every day. And usually us bald guys can grow a mean beard, so it's a nice little change of pace, okay? The other thing, folks, that I'd like to cover just real quick before we get into public comment, the mayor, the village manager, and the board give everyone that signed up 3 minutes to talk. If they have questions or need to clarify something, they can continue that conversation. Each of them is very patient, they're understanding, they'll continue the conversation if need be. If you have a comment or concern that needs to be looked into or discussed further, they're happy to make contact with you. You'll often see me step outside the room if it's police related. We can discuss it further, but this isn't the venue to get all in on it. This is not for arguing back and forth and that kind of stuff. Things that are voted on have been investigated, looked into, discussed, and the like before being voted on. We want everybody to have a say. But everyone must act in a respectful manner. We understand that certain topics cause a lot of emotion, but this isn't the venue to let every emotion fly. If you're not signed up for public comment, you will not shout from the seats, interrupt anybody, or do anything to disturb the peace. Foul language or disrespectful actions will cause immediate removal from the meeting. You can be cited for that, even arrested if need be. The Sheriff's Department is here to serve, protect, and keep the peace. And trust me, the last thing we want to do is to have to take action, but we won't hesitate to do so if necessary. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Next would be public comment.
You'll have to be a little older to remember this, but my parents used to have friends who would call them spontaneously and say, "It's a come as you are party."
All right, first will be John Coy.
That went back to the 60s or 70s. I can't recall exactly when, but a friend would decide to just call their other friends and say, "Hey, I'm here to come as you are party."
I was going to speak, but then I've talked to a couple people already, and it's about the right-of-ways on our roads out there. Another thing, police chief just walked out the door. I was going to tell him, I go out in the evening 3 times a week, and I usually wind up in the Lockport area, and the people with only one headlight or half the time not even any headlights. There's more and more of them out there every night recently. Other than that, these right-of-ways is my kind of a thorn in my side right at this time. And I'll talk to probably, and I hope you people that I passed out the information to last week read some of it, and especially the parts that were underlined in red. I didn't really have enough time to explain some of it to you, but anyway, the one underlined in red says that if the township, the highway department, and everybody else can't handle it or do it, then it's your responsibility. So please read it and let me know what's going to happen.
Thank you, John. Chris, did you want to talk about the garage and public comment, or you want to? I'll ask the questions, or you can ask the questions, yes. Next would be Tim O'Mara.
Including the little areas, inconsideration, selfishness. Come as you are to Jesus Christ. He calls you today. He calls out to a world. Come to me, and I will save you. But here's the difference. We don't come as we are and then...
My name's Tim O'Mara. I reside at 15951 West Shady Lane. I'm here to talk about the gas and wash truck stop tonight. Up on the dais there, if you want to pass it around, I have photographs that I presented to the Planning Commission of this is now product specific. This is a gas and wash that is identical to the one that's being proposed for you folks here on 159th at 191st and 88th Avenue. Unfortunately, I couldn't print more photos because Walmart's print thing was down. I've been there, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. From 9/24 through 9/10/1, I went to that facility, and every single night, you have multiple trucks overnighting in that facility. Okay? I just went the past 4 days, and the same thing is going on. So it looks like you people are bent on making the first truck stop in the western entrance of your village. So this is your future. Because guess what? Even over there, there's not a warehousing complex. It's just an exit off of I-80. And you have trucks in there every single night. Okay? Now, with all the warehousing that's been brought in by Lockport, it's going to be even worse here. These truck drivers, once they're done with a 10-hour day, they have to be off the road. Currently, they're pulling off in Jewel, Walmart, Meijer. You'll find them there every night. When this gas station goes up, doesn't mean that they don't have any truck parking there. The truck drivers are pretty good at this. Just slide into the avenues, into the approaches, get off to one side to let the other trucks through, and they will be overnighting in that facility. Planning Commission saw no reason to put any stipulations or rules in place to prevent this. So I'm asking you, are you going to put reasonable rules in place that this will not happen? Now, when this petitioner was here the last time, he adamantly told you folks that that would never happen at one of his facilities. It's happening nightly at the exact same blueprint that you're going to put up on 159th. So I was told in a phone conversation when I brought this up with your new village manager that we won't let this happen. So I'd like to know who we is. I'd like to have a name and a phone number of who's going to enforce this. Because I don't think you have a we unless VJ is going on nights. There's no way for you to enforce this unless you're going to put some rules in that will fine not the truck driver, but the owner of the establishment. That's the only way you're going to make it stop. The truck drivers don't care because they're looking at a $4,000 fine if they're caught on the road after 10 hours. You think they're going to care about you're going to give them a $50 ticket for an ordinance violation? And the last thing that I learned, Will County does not enforce your ordinances. So I want to know, who is we? I'd like to get an answer tonight. Who is we that is currently employed by the Village of Homer Glen that's going to enforce no trucks? Every one of these places is posted, no truck parking, no overnight truck parking. It happens every single night. And just as a kicker, because his personnel are so well trained, I have it on my phone, I couldn't print it, but I went to the facility the other night, and you have 2 rows of firewood stacked in front of what? The emergency shut-off switch for the pumps. If they had a problem at one of those pumps that started pumping raw fuel, they had a fire at the islands, they wouldn't have been able to get to it. Okay, so this is your class management of what you want to bring into the village, and you want your truck stop, and that's going to be the welcome to Homer Glen as you come into your western border. So are you willing to put in some laws that'll, with some teeth in it, or can somebody tell me who we is? Because I haven't been able to get an answer to we.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Michael Lepresti.
Who and other people had thrown out there, an IDOT easement for the fact that Lockport put a water line in along Garter Road does not control that road. It's the township, not the entities that put water lines in. So there may be some confusion, but the law is very specific, and I quote from Michael Olson of the Illinois Department of Transportation, Bureau of Operations. Local agencies can post weight limits, but to do so they must pass an ordinance or resolution. That ordinance or resolution passed by the township specifies where the weight limit is, and once passed, they must place signs. Assuming that all that was done, they should have placed a sign at the beginning of the limit, and if a truck passes that sign, they are illegal if exceeding the limit posted. The language is very clear. They have 1 mile of access onto any roadway unless signed and posted restricting the access. This is IDOT code 625 ILCS 5/15-107. So that's the actual code. Now, the other part is they propose to move that sign 600 feet down the road, and they're going to do me a favor. They're going to do all of us a favor and let the trucks pull through the gas station so that they don't violate the weight limit that they move down the street. Now, who moves the weight limit down halfway down the street or a quarter of a way down the roadway? No one. No one. I couldn't find any place in all my studies that they designed to move that weight limit down the street. Doesn't happen. The other thing is that it was said that that intersection was upgraded when they did 159th Street. About 40 feet of it was upgraded on an apron. The rest of it is all the old road that is just tar pitch and blacktopped over. So I don't know, man. The bottom line is even on the petition, it says it's an automobile gas and retail space, and nowhere does it say truck stop. Well, it kind of is. So the only other thing I can think of is that Lockport, the city of Lockport, in their infinite wisdom of creating this mess for all of us, their residents now are complaining about the truck traffic and they can't get around in the noise. And those city fathers were smart enough to bring in all that crap over there. And now you're joining the club. You're encouraging that to come to your town. So, good luck with that. Thank you, Mike. Deborah Lopresti?
Hello, Deborah Lopresti, Galvin Road. I just want to reiterate what Mr. O'Mara said. I work at the Jewel in Lockport. I cannot tell you how many times a week I have to call Lockport Police to come shag a semi that's sleeping in our parking lot. We have signs, there's no parking, and they'll argue. They'll actually argue with the police saying, well, I can't move my truck because of the fines that they get. They're everywhere, and they're just going to be where we are. So again, I'm hoping that you're going to incorporate some type of assurance to us, whether it be an idling ordinance or some type of ordinance saying you have X amount of time to fuel your truck, go in and get something to eat, relax, take a break. I get it. They get hungry, they need to replenish. But are you going to come up with some type of reasonable time frame so that if they encroach and go over that time limit, something can be done? And then the question is, who would we contact to come and basically shag them out of there, fine them, whatever it is? So I'm hoping that you are thinking of some type of ordinance or time frame or guarantees to us that they won't be parking up there, which history has proven that they do in this facility owned by this company. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. John Gatzis?
You know, I actually don't need to speak. I was more or less just signing in case you have any questions to help you with your decision. So.
Okay, thank you. Glen McHenry, same thing? Yes, Your Honor. This is, you don't want to talk right now, you're going to be talking when we have you before us? Correct. Okay. Ed Howard?
Hi, Pat Howard, 15607 Forest Court, Homer Glen. I'm here to talk about the gas and wash also. So it seems like everybody's kind of capitulated. We realize it going in. We just need to cut down the truck traffic on Galvin Road. Even though, like Tim had mentioned, there's supposed to be ordinances in place, nothing's been done. Nothing's been addressed at any of the meetings that I've been to about taking care of it. We haven't seen any increased police presence that I've noticed anyway. Coming here at 151st and Cedar Road, there was a semi turning left onto 151st Street. He couldn't make the corner. He ended up driving into the ditch, and then the car that was sitting at the stop sign had to veer to the right so he could make his turn. That's the type of truck traffic we have going down Galvin Road. We've said it before, there's a bus stop at the bottom of the hill, at the bottom of Shady Lane. Children live on the street, there's a school on the street. We haven't heard any of that stuff addressed. We haven't heard anything from any of the village officials as far as what's going to be done to enforce anything. At least I haven't. I haven't heard it at the meetings I've been to. I missed the last one, so. But would be very interested in hearing that. Does anybody have anything now, or is it going to be addressed tonight? Who we contact for ordinance enforcement?
That won't be addressed tonight, no.
Okay, is that ever going to be addressed?
All of it will be addressed.
I mean, is it going to be addressed?
We're going to do what the village can do.
Pardon me?
We're going to do what the village can do. And right now, the Will County Police are doing it over there. They've given multiple tickets. And I don't expect anyone to sit there and watch, but the police are there all the time. So we'll get all this stuff figured out.
And then the people who live in the area are going to be notified as who we need to call in case something happens?
I'll get back to you.
So you can't tell us right now whether or not you're going to have any type of anything enforced. So you're ready to vote on something and approve it, and yet you don't have anything in place that's going to address the ordinance issues.
As of right now, yes.
You do or you don't have anything in place?
No, we're not going to have anyone until we sit down and we start working on some of the stuff that we are looking at. The problems, I understand that some of you have some issues with it over there, but it's still not our property. So just give us the time that we need.
Well, it seems like you've had how many years now since this thing has been addressed? So that's the confusing issue.
Well,
You guys
I'm
have known
not
about
gonna
this
argue
for-
with you right now, Pat. It's real simple. I told you we'll do something about it. We're not doing it right now.
Okay. So you've had 3 or 4 years to come up with a solution. You've been aware of the problem that's been addressed multiple times at these meetings, and nobody still has an answer. So we're supposed
This is a
to,
question and answer.
so we're supposed to be
I'm done,
encouraged.
and next can come
So
up
we're
with a-
supposed to be encouraged that everything's gonna be taken care of. So, great, thank you guys.
Kathy, move.
Hi, I'm Kathy Boo. My husband and my family are the landowners of this property. We have currently 44 acres there, and this is 5 acres, which we are trying to sell to Gas and Wash. This is not my first time with going about this with the gas station. I kind of feel like I'm living in Groundhog Day because I keep coming back and talking to you guys all the time about this. It is something that the family were 1,100 feet from that. I'd like to address something Mr. LaPreste said too. I did not say Lockport Water had anything to do with the control of the road. What was said was Lockport put water mains on the other side of the road. The other thing I'd like to correct too for him is to mention that the 159th Street, when they put 355 in, how many years ago was that? They did improve the road to the driveway off of Galva Road that is owned by the state. And I know that because they bought it from us. That's how I know the state controls that. And they made it, improved it all the way to the driveway, which is a lot more than 40 feet from the road. Yes, this is the gateway to Homer Glen. Yes, the changes are coming. This has been in our family since the 1860s. The changes are coming. This is the beginning. And this is the only corner that Homer Glen has at 159th and Galver. The other 3 are all Lockport. So Lockport will put what Lockport wants to put wherever Lockport wants to put, as we know they have done with the warehouses. This is something that will benefit you also. I have problems with the trucks, yet I have seen numerous trucks pulled over by the police, more than one SWAT car sometime. I've seen them ticketed. There was one that was pulled over on 159th yesterday, that had gone down Gower, and they were getting the scales to come out and weigh it. So they are aware of it, they are out there, they are trying to do it. This is not an issue that's going to be fixed overnight. It's an issue that has to be worked on and taken time to get done and do it correctly. We still live on this property. I will be using the driveway to the north of this property going in and out. I can tell you right now, as you both, all of you know me, I don't hesitate calling when there's an issue. So if there's truck parking there, you don't think I'll be calling you and telling you, as well as the police department, because it'll affect my other property. So, I mean, just so you know, I am aware of it. I've had trucks back up into our field. So I know this is an issue, and I see them turn around, U-turn all the time on Gallagher. So it's called living with what we have to see the changes of. So I wanted to just tell you thank you very much for consideration on this again. I look forward to working with you down the road, seeing as if this gets done, there's 39 more acres to go. So we'll see what will be put in on the rest of it as the time goes. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Downing, and I'm the second property from the proposed site. A lot of people have said a lot of things about the trucks, and that was my concern also. You know, we have the school at the end of the block, we have our bus stops. Thank goodness we have at least the bus stop sign that Kathy helped us get 20 years ago. Now we need maybe even a bigger sign or a flashing light or something. But everything else has been covered, but I would like to ask, why has Homer Glen or Homer Township not thought of this property as open space? It's a beautiful property. It's a beautiful entrance to Homer Glen. We have a few of them. It's a historic farm. Has that ever been thought of, that you guys get it, there's a bike path, you could make a nice little park, you can still have your sign, a rest area. I just thought a good idea for that place.
Thanks, Dan Herb?
I'm here with Chris with the garage and his neighbor.
Okay. Mark Owen?
Same thing, here to support my neighbor, Chris. Okay. Cedar Glen.
Margaret Siegel?
Hello, Board of Directors, Mayor. I would like to address the gas and wash. This proposed development is near a subdivision and other developments in residential and school property. As with any property, residents have invested their savings in their homes. No one really wants to live near a gas station, which includes a semi-truck facility and brings dangerous truck traffic with it. When a gas station and semi-truck facility is proposed in the vicinity, good planning dictates that these properties be protected so that property values and quality of life issues are not disturbed or degraded, so that annoyances are kept to a minimum and safety is a top priority. This area on the west side of Homer Glen, however, is on the west side of Homer Glen. What is developed here will certainly affect the village. Shady Hollow and properties on the east side of Belger Road are in the Homer Glen planning area. Those residents on the west side of Belger are in the Lockport planning area. Still, all those living in these places can be negatively affected. This creates a very undesirable location in Homer Glen. And when the mayor said this is not our property, I believe that since the Boo property was annexed, that this road from 151st Street to 159th becomes Homer Glen. And also, because it's in the Homer Glen planning area, we should be very concerned about what goes there. Therefore, I address the Homer Glen Village Board with these important points to be included as requirements in an amendment added before a gas station and a semi-truck facility is approved. The first one, parking overnight is not allowed for trucks. The second one, idling overnight for trucks is not to be allowed except when waiting in line to get gas. Air horn blowing is not to be allowed. The sound carries very easily here. Even residents down the road on 151st Street who are Homer Glen residents will be able to hear it. The noise from 355 is very apparent in this area. Next one, a drop station situation, or whatever it's officially called, where semi-truck parking is not allowed, is not to be allowed, where truckers and their trucks can wait for the next shift to arrive. The last one, semi-trucks are still illegally using Gallagher Road between 159th Street and 151st, as we all know. Semi-trucks traveling to and from this proposed gas station are not to be allowed to use this section of road on Gallagher. And I ask you to include that in your amendments or amendment, however you choose to do it. But not to do it would be awful. This affects all of us, even though this is on the extreme west side of the Homer Glen area. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. The approval of accounts payable for the period of October 11th, 2019 through October 24th, 2019 in the amount of $1,066,302.03. Consider for approval the Treasurer's report of cash and investments for periods ending September 30th, 2019. And consider an approval pay estimate number 11 from Integral Construction, Inc. for the Active Court project at Heritage Park in an amount of $23,430.
So moved.
Trustee Gray. Trustee Sweet. Discussion. No discussion. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Burden?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Hall?
Motion carries. Next would be legislation and action items. Is there a motion to authorize the village board to accept and receive the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2019 village audit? So moved. Trustee Burden?
Second.
Trustee Rogers? Should be two ways. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz? Aye. Trustee Burden?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. And do you have any questions for the?
Mayor, this is Ed McCormick, he's the partner with Muller. They've been doing the audit the past several years. He's here to give a short overview of it, or answer any questions that you might get on it. Always a pleasure working with Ed and their firm, but I know it had a little short presentation. If you
Without a doubt, that's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. And I know you've got a lot on your agenda, so I'll try to make this short. But what we're looking at is the report for the year ended April 30th of 2019. It's about 85 pages, broken down into 3 sections, because once again, this is a comprehensive annual financial report. And first section of that, the introduction section, starts with the transmittal letter. And you can see that there's a copy or a picture of the award that was received for the report for last year. And the expectation is that this report is to be submitted, and we'll achieve that as well, because this is truly a very comprehensive document. It has a lot of information that's not required, but does help the reader understand what's going on and what's transpired this past year with the village. The transmittal letter is more of an overview, talks about the economic conditions, some of the programs and activities that took place over the past year, a little discussion on the finances, and then following that is the last year's certificate. There's a organization chart and principal officials make up the balance of the introduction section. It kind of gives just a broad brush overview of the village. Then we get into the financial section, and that Roman numeral 10 is our contribution to this packet. These are, I was telling the reader of the statement here, that these are your financial statements. You are the highest level of management. It's your responsibility for the fair presentation and design and implementation of the internal controls that are used to develop the information in here. And it's our responsibility as the auditors to perform audit procedures, test documents. Also this year, because of the requirement of the state to, what they call the GATA reporting, where they're trying to centralize all the reporting, they require government auditing standards to be applied. So there was some additional testing that had to be done, and an additional letter that's included. But basically, we went through, looked at the documents, tested things, and formed an opinion. And that last line is probably the most important part of this first page, is that we believe the audit evidence obtained is sufficient to provide a basis for the opinions. And our opinions are that these statements do fairly present all material respects, the financial position, result of operations of the village for the year ended April 30th, 19. As what's referred to in the accounting world or the audit world is an unmodified opinion. We don't feel that there's any modifications that are needed to these statements, that material modifications that to make them a fair representation of the year. That's, from an audit standpoint, that's as good as it gets, and we'll at least be able to say that. There's some other information included in the report, some required information, mainly talking about the involvement with IMRF, other information that's supplemental. Basically everything through the footnotes is what's considered the basic financial statements. Everything after that is more other information. There's comparative information. We did express an unmodified opinion on the report last year as well. And then finally, with the government auditing standards, there's a new letter that's being included that's on Roman numeral 13, talks about your internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. And I'm pleased to say that in our testing there, we found no instances of non-compliance. Again, auditors can't ever say anything nice, we just say, we didn't find any problems. So all in all, I think, you've got a real good document here. And, the fact that the controls are working and things are being recorded properly, John and the staff do a great job of getting everything together so that this document can come to you as you see it. The next section is the management discussion and analysis. It's kind of the story behind the numbers, so to speak. Talks about your financial highlights, that your assets and deferred outflows exceeded your liabilities and deferred inflows this past year, and what amounts are restricted, that, from a governmental fund perspective, and your fund balance has actually decreased almost $6.7 million, but you spent almost $10 million in capital expenditures this past year. So, it's not that, from an operation standpoint, everything was fine. It's just that you were, doing a lot of the projects that you had set out. Brief overview of the different statements. There's what are considered the entity-wide or combined statements, are the first couple statements. And there's a comparison on Roman numeral 17 between this year and last year. Your total assets are up slightly, and your net position is also up because, in this case, all those capital items were added to your capital assets and therefore increased your equity. There's on the following page, there's a comparison between the revenues and the expenses, which include depreciation of those capital assets. Your revenues were also up slightly this year, and from an expense standpoint, that they were increased, but it was mainly for areas that public safety was up a little bit, as well as public works. So things that are serving the residents are really what the major increases. Some charts showing breakdown where the dollars came in as far as revenues, and then following that where the dollars are spent, just more of a graphical presentation. From a budgetary standpoint, actually your actual expenditures for the general government or main operating were actually $245,000 lower than anticipated. So you set a plan out, and actually you exceeded it from the expenditure standpoint. Again, a little discussion about capital assets and debt. There's more detail in footnotes about that. And then finally talking about what's going on in the current year as far as the budget and what have you. But I think if you just stopped at that point, that would give you a real good summary of the report. The actual financial statements follow on the number pages. There's just more detail on those, statement of net position and statement of activities, or the combined statements. The actual fund financial statements begin on page 3 and 4. We get a balance sheet for all the funds showing there. And then on pages 6 and 7 is a summary of the revenues and the expenditures. And that's, as I said, that's where all those capital outlays are identified by the funds, mainly in the capital projects as well as the park and recreation funds. Following those statements are some budgetary comparisons, and gives you, again, more detail on the revenues and the expenses, or expenditures, I should say, in comparison to budget. And then the next section begins on page 17, are the notes of the financial statement. Talks about your accounting policies, nothing's changed there. Page 24 talks about your deposits, investments, everything was collateralized or secure from that standpoint, so we felt everything was proper there. Capital assets are on page 26, showing the amount of the additions mainly in the infrastructure and land improvements. Long-term liabilities, this is your outstanding debt. Right now, the debt will be paid off by 2023. You can see that there's no big balloon payment coming up. This is on page 28 for those bonds. The balance of the note talks about involvement with IMRF. There's actually in the debt there is your net pension liability. This is what the actuaries determined. Actually did increase this year to $673,000 for IMRF. IMRF is the one public retirement fund that, or one of the few that is very independent from the state legislature. So their funding is in much better shape than a lot of the other ones. What they'll amortize that shortfall as part of your rate over the next several years in order to try to get you to a fully funded standpoint. But a lot of it depends on how the investments for the IMRF do and when they measure it at the end of the year. And they're on a calendar year, so this measurement was at the end of 18, which the market was not that kind to us at that point. Following that are some information regarding the various funds. And individual statements. I'm not going to look at those. And then the last part of the report gets into the some statistical information that shows there's 5 different categories and a lot of 10-year trend information. So again, if you're looking at, where has the village come from over a period of time, it gives you a lot of really good information, some demographic information, some revenue information, just a lot of, and if somebody wanted to, again, get go to one place and get a good idea of what's going on, this is probably the best document to start with. So that, hopefully quickly enough, was a summary of the audit. Are there any questions on the numbers?
And I just have one question for you. I know that John and his staff and you guys always do a great job, and our financials are always unimpeachable, but you mentioned that this year you tested against some new guidelines based from the state.
Right. Basically what they're, if you look at it, there's kind of layers of audit. There's kind of generally accepted auditing standards, which is what applies to everybody. Then there's the next level that there's what we call government auditing standards, and there's specific things that have to be looked at in order to have an opinion. And basically it's the internal controls and compliance type of issues with reporting. And then the highest level is if you were to get federal funds over or expend more than $750,000 of federal funds, then it gets into what's called a single audit rate 133 audit. So they kind of build on each other. So this year, because of this GATA, which is the acronym for the transparency reporting, then the state now requires everybody to kind of take that step up to the middle ground. So it's just, looking at, procedures and internal controls and other things that.
And all of that fared well against the new testing?
And yeah, everything, was as it should be. I mean, again, we're fortunate that, or I should say you're fortunate that, we're working with John, that, he understands what's necessary. He knows what controls have to be in place. He's proactive in making sure it does happen. So yeah, as I said, we didn't have any issues of, any, in our vernacular, significant deficiencies or material weaknesses.
Thank you.
So everything is fine.
Are there any other questions?
I'd just like to thank Mr. McCormick. I think we set a record here tonight that I only saw 3 people in the audience fall asleep during this presentation. So I think it's a new record since I've been here. But in all seriousness, I think this is a good opportunity to remind residents that all of this information, in addition to a whole lot more, is available on our website year-round. This is an annual audit, but on our website there's a government transparency page that if you go through that, and I encourage people to do it, not only is the audit there, our budgets are there, our check register, every check written by this village, any transaction is there, excuse me, is there on the website. Pardon me. Our treasurer's reports, any salaries, staff, elected officials. It is as easy, and I would encourage residents or anyone else to go look at some other towns and compare transparency and what's available. I know on a regular occasion, I don't even have to trouble staff with questions I may have on financial things within the village, because I can just go to our website and pull it. So I just think as we go through this annual audit, it's also a good time to remind residents that this information is available with a quick click on the internet, and it's there all the time year round. So just a quick reminder on that.
And I want to thank you too. Every year it's all good.
No, it's my pleasure. It's always nice to come and give good news like this, but it's your hard work that ends up in this result. And kind of going with the theme, I like to say audit should be boring. Maybe we should put more people into that. Because if it's exciting, that's not a good thing. Because your finances should be as you see them on a monthly basis. The audit should just confirm that, and I think that's what you're finding here. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to make the presentation. If there are questions that do come up, through John, or if you feel appropriate, give me a call. If I can help, I'd be more than happy to. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonard. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-046, an ordinance approving 1, a variance to increase maximum size of an accessory structure from 800 square feet to 1,000 square feet for certain real property located in R2
single-family residential zoning district at 14945 Glen Crest Lane, Homer Glen, Illinois, and a variance to increase the maximum height of the accessory structure from 15 feet to 16 feet for certain real property located in the R2 single-family residential zoning district at 14945 Glen Crest Lane, Homer Glen, Illinois, 14945 South Crest Lane, Chris Kowalski, case number HG 1921V.
I so move.
Trustee Suisse.
Second.
Trustee Bergen.
Your Honor, I motion to amend the motion on the floor to increase the 1,000 square feet to 1,200 square feet.
Second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Maybe there's a motion on the floor.
Which was amended, you're allowed to amend it.
You got a discussion on the motion, sorry. We need a discussion on the motion to amend it right now.
Okay.
Maybe the reason behind it.
So,
I'd be happy to. A few points. We're talking about 200 square feet when the lot is 46,000 square feet. There was one letter sent in opposition, and their property doesn't even adjoin the subject property. In fact, all of that adjoining property is unincorporated. So I understand their concerns, but it's not, none of that is subject to the village's standards. The findings of fact within the board packet, it states it is not likely to be detrimental to the public welfare, and furthermore will be reviewed for compliance through planning, zoning, building, and engineering requirements. And pulling direct from the packet on page 195, that the variance granted will not alter the essential character of the locality. The variance granted will not alter the essential character of the locality. The property owner is proposing to set the garage back 175 feet from the property line. The brick that will be utilized on the detached garage will match the principal structure. Furthermore, while not the majority, numerous homes in the subdivision have oversized detached garages. So that's the majority of my basis for it. My personal take on it is, what's the aesthetic preference? Do we want to see multiple trucks, vehicles, whatnot in the driveways, or a detached garage 175 feet back that conforms to our exterior building standards?
I agree with, I'm sorry, I agree with Trustee Holtz. I mean, at the end of the day, we have that huge, looks almost from the pictures I saw, it's an industrial area, and this is something that, if I was his neighbor, I'd be like, wow, that's great, he's putting up a really nice building, you know. It's not a barn, it's something that's very well thought out, the plans look amazing, and to me, it's not really gonna affect anybody that's wrong in a negative way. And he's doing it right. He's coming up, he's bringing it in front of the board. So, I agree.
is there any other discussion to amend the motion?
Well, I just say, when you compare, like, he's saying there's other garages or whatever you call these, this size of the building in the area, but you're comparing bananas and apples because that's unincorporated, and our ordinance does not allow such, you know, they allow 800 square feet. So I will, if the board wants to do, let's vote on it. You can do it up or down. I'll rescind my motion. But I don't think just because someone, like I said, it's not a hardship. They just want something larger. It's not a hardship. So that's my feeling.
I would just ask the petitioner, I know at the last meeting, you requested 1,400. Correct. Last meeting, you said that 1,200 would serve your purposes, length of the truck. There were some details to that of why.
Well, that's why I went with 1,400,
Yeah.
because my truck is long. I brought both my neighbors, one to the left, one to the right. These are the people that are gonna be living right next to it. He's the one that's gonna be seeing it every day. He's not. but he's still here because he's been looking at that garbage pile that the semi-trucks are parked in. Now, I didn't even know you guys had a semi-truck problem. So now I'm worried because what if Kettler, the commercial building on 151st and Cedar, to that one big house, where, I don't even know where it is, but in the middle, what if he sells? And what if that becomes a truck stop, which already got trucks parked in there all day long? So that's literally commercial building. So why can't I just go 10 feet more back towards that commercial side and 40 feet wide, which it's already 40 feet. You guys are telling me no by 10 feet. I mean, 10 feet is not that much. You know, that's why I was asking for that 1,400, so I could have room to walk around my car, walk around my property, you know, in my garage, work on my cars, change the oils, do stuff. You know, I don't want to do this stuff in the rain and the snow. And I got neighbors that would support that. You know, there's kids literally driving down the driveway and there's commercial vehicles parked. And what if, you know, I was even talking to the police officer that we had a problem in our subdivision with a speeding Mustang. I mean, 60, 70 miles an hour, flying. Now I got another Ash Jeep flying with a Scion. You know, I don't want my kids playing right next to, there's no sidewalks in that subdivision whatsoever.
Yeah, I've driven through and I've seen this.
Oh, my property, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And so it's only to the left, all the way to the back.
Yeah, my question goes back to at the last meeting, you were comfortable with the approval of 1,200, correct?
I really would have loved the 14, to be honest with you. That's why I submitted it 14 with VJ, with Melissa and everything.
I got that.
And I don't want to settle. But if I have to, like I don't want to, but if I have to, just to get something in paper and I could do it, yeah, I'm.
Yeah, my recollection from the last meeting, why I asked my recollection from the last meeting was that when Plan Commission approved this at 1,000, you essentially said that just wouldn't work, my vehicle wouldn't fit.
Correct.
You might as well not approve it.
Correct.
But 1,200 would accomplish those purposes.
I would have to change those plans a little bit on my thing, and I mean, I already paid thousands of dollars for those blueprints. And I have to repave again to get that schematic that you guys are looking at on your screen right now. I mean, this is costing me money.
Yeah, sure.
And you guys, I mean, we're talking about 10 feet back towards there's no houses back there. It's commercial. So my neighbor, Brandon, is going to live next to me. He's going to build a garage in the next couple of years. So why can't, if he's going to do the same thing right next to me, and my other neighbor, Dan, which they allow it, they're happy for me to do that and hide my vehicles. What's 10 feet by 40? I mean, you guys are killing me here with this 10 feet. I mean, 10 feet's not far.
You're killing us with 1,400.
It has nothing to do with, my property is so big that I could put a 1,500 square foot garage. It's allowed. But you guys are telling me no, because you guys think it's too big.
Well, and I would say, look, this is what the variance process is designed for, right? The ordinance is 800, okay? So it's not just 10 feet. We're saying there's been a discussion here, and I'm trying to help.
Sure.
And at 1,200 at the last meeting, you would have taken a vote at 1,200, and you would have been okay.
I'll take the 1,200.
I'm not putting words in your mouth, correct?
No, I did say that, absolutely.
So, and I appreciate your patience on this, waiting for one additional meeting. At the time, we didn't have all the information from some of the neighbors, right? As I sit here today, as I've driven that neighborhood, I think this is the variance process. This is a structure that if you came into my neighborhood, I probably wouldn't say yes to, but when you take into account the sort of hodgepodge of the unincorporated within this subdivision, we didn't allow the other structure, but it exists, right? When we take into account that, for me, I'm saying we, but for me, that both of your next door neighbors are supportive of that, that's important to me.
Well, he's a couple houses down too, and he's going to do the
Agreed. So those are the things that part of the variance process are important to me. When we say another 10 feet, I would just say, remember, the ordinance is 800. Plan Commission approved this at 1,000, and we're saying 1,200. I'm comfortable with that because of the things that I just talked about that I think make this a unique situation that in other areas of town, I wouldn't be comfortable at 1,200 because it wouldn't fit for those reasons.
No, I understand.
Yeah, so, and that's the variance process playing itself.
Yeah, but the first meeting, I asked them, I'm like, why not 1,200? Like, they're like, listen, it's at 800 to 1,000, you know, I don't think they're gonna approve it. They were telling me that you guys were not gonna be supportive, and that's why they didn't do the 1,200.
Sure.
And I'm like, just leave it at 14 and let you guys decide, because you guys are the ones that really actually get to decide on what it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, but no, they had to reduce that to 1,000.
Well, where I'm trying to make this fairly specific is the last meeting, 1,000 wouldn't even fit the vehicle.
It wouldn't even, I wouldn't
So
even.
it wasn't, and so that's why we're at 1,200.
Okay.
Right? And that's been taken into account. So, I just wanted to walk you through my thought process, and thank you for your patience on this, because we didn't have all that information.
But tell me, why do you guys have a code that I could build a structure on my property that's, you know, bigger than 1,400 because it's allowed? But you guys have a only have your limit at 800. So you, like, one code's fighting another code. It doesn't make sense.
Accessory structure.
Right, it's a garage, it's an accessory.
The second structure, an accessory structure, not a primary structure.
Yeah, but some of those houses are not all 2,500 or 3,000, or, you know, there's different square footage on each house, but they're all about an acre or a little bit more. Some of them are 2 acres lots. So if you have a bigger lot.
The accessory structure is limited to 800 on that size of lot.
So if
That's up to you.
if I connected that to my house, then I could do a 2,000 square foot, because my property
You
is
have
connected.
to pass the test of how much impervious surface you're covering on your lot.
So I-
there are other benchmarks you'd still be up against, but
Sure.
you're right. If you attach it to your house, I presume that opens up a whole different a lane that you would have to take.
BJ, so what would
Correct.
what would I be able to do with that then?
Well, you can go up to the lot coverage, so you can maximize to the, you know, for the R2 zoning, whatever the lot coverage is, you can maximize.
And what's the max on that property?
So I can get back to you on that one.
I mean, you can have us vote on what's before.
Sure, but now
If you
that-
decide to go that route, you can always go that route.
Yeah, but that would be a separate, then I'll have to come back and do the meetings all
Right, just
over.
because we say yes doesn't mean you have to move forward with what.
Okay, sounds good.
I just wanted to say that I received an email late this afternoon, there's copies for the board from an additional neighbor in support of what he wants to do. And so we've had discussion at the last meeting and in prior discussions about a variance and what the hardship. And I think some of that stuff is subjective. We've had talk of establishing a precedence, but I feel like in these situations, kind of like what Trustee Berrien said, each property is kind of, at times, has a unique situation, which I feel this one really does, more so than others. And so if we are looking at similar or identical variance requests over and over, then that says that there's a problem with the code, and maybe it should be reviewed and amended. But in this type of situation, I don't feel it's necessarily establishing a precedence. I do feel properties in a subdivision like this have a unique situation going on, and I feel that that should be taken into account. And I think the fact that almost every neighbor surrounding him is okay with it speaks volumes. And I think it is only an extra 200 square feet to go from 1,000 to 1,200. And so if he can make that work, I would rather have the garage that meets our exterior building standards than look at work trucks in the driveway, which seems to also be a subject of contention throughout.
Any other discussion? Do you have any other questions?
Would you guys consider 14 my original plan? I mean, like she said, you know, my house is backed up to a commercial lot. I have no neighbors behind me. If I had neighbors behind me, I would understand a smaller garage. I really would. But I really don't have anybody. And I have neighbors that came with me on their own time that support the 1,400 square foot garage.
Well, we have a motion on the floor right now for 1,200.
Okay, I'll let you guys do your thing. Thank you very much for your time, guys.
So we're voting on amending the motion first?
Correct. So the first motion is to amend to 1,200.
1,012.
And then depending on how that goes, then we'll be voting on the regular motion.
Holst? Yes. Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Burman?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
And this is for 1,200.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Now we have to go down to the first one. Well, yeah,
There's
there's a
already-
motion and, right. So it's trustee Suisse and
Here.
trustee Burman. Okay. So you've already decided that you're okay with 1,200.
Wasn't that done backwards? Or
No, there was a-
remove the motion first
No.
before going forward? Okay.
There was a motion to amend,
Okay.
which basically what you voted on now was simply to amend your motion
Right.
from 1,000 to 1,200. Now you're going to be voting on the original motion. It's amended, that amendment.
Okay.
So if there's no other discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holst? Aye. Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Suisse?
Aye.
Trustee Burman?
Aye.
Trustee Pazmino?
Aye.
Motion carries, you've got approved for the 1,200.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, how about the height of the garage, 15 to 16 feet? That's a separate motion.
It wasn't a separate one, it was part of the same
Or
motion.
is that motion?
Next, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-049, an ordinance approving a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard from 25 feet to 5 feet. 01B, site and structure local requirements for residential districts of Chapter 2.2 code. Zoning of the codes of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in the R5 single-family residential zoning district at 14317 South Pebble Creek Drive, Homer Glen, Illinois. 14317 South Pebble Creek Drive, Thomas and Jenny T. Gadsis, case number HG 1923-V.
So moved.
Trustee Gray,
Second.
trustee Rogers. Discussion.
This house, I guess the two go hand in hand, 2 and 3 and 4. First of all, I'm sympathetic to you, how terrible that your home burned down. They're asking for such a small variance considering all that they've gone through. I would say that, to me, it qualifies as a hardship. Most of the properties over there are all similar in material to what they're going to have there, and I agree with the planning commission. I think they've been through quite a bit already, and to not allow them to build a house as it was prior doesn't seem very fair.
I agree.
But they're not wanting to build it as it was prior.
They're not what?
It's a different footprint.
Yeah, there was a 10-foot setback before, now it's going to be reduced to a 5-foot. For the variance, is that right?
Correct.
For the variance, I think what trustee Holtz is saying is the house itself is going to be larger square footage wise. It's 29 and change versus 23 and change that it was previously before it had burned down. But I understand now it's going to be a one level for handicap accessibility, which is, probably going to, by nature of what it is, going to make that structure a little bit larger on its footprint. So, Trustee Rogers said, hey, you've been through a hardship certainly, and this, it hopefully can get you guys back into the community, as far as in the same spot, as well as, maybe aging in place with handicap accessibility. So I like that it's doing all of that. My initial look at it was the same thing that I think that Trustee Holtz may have alluded to there, that it's 600 square feet bigger. I was kind of like, well, wait a minute, it's significantly larger than some of these other properties around here. We're looking at the schematic that shows some of them. But one thing I've noticed is that its proximity to 143rd Street, it's probably phase 2 of Pebble Creek, maybe phase 3, I can't remember exactly. But builders typically put the bigger houses on corners anyhow when they're building those things to kind of entice them. So, because if you look at the other house to the northwest, it's at 28 and change. The one directly across the street is 25. So I think it's one of the pieces in the packet said that it's similar in size, and it is noticeably larger. But I think that was probably one of the things that the builder had done initially. So.
That section of Pebble Creek was started probably in 72, 74. And even though I do not like siding, all the houses there, they're just replacing to fit in with the area, because everyone in that area is the same. So, during the plan commission, Director Gotti, was the neighbor right to the north of him was okay, because was it just the garage that was extending a little bit closer to the 5-foot property line?
Yeah, so the garage.
They were okay with?
Yeah, the garage is actually extending to the east, the neighbor to the north. Just want to make sure the drainage field is okay carrying the water to Pebble Creek to the west. He was just concerned about the drainage, and his wish was to build a privacy fence at the owner's cost, but the plan commission did not entertain that request.
So based on the plans that have been submitted to us and everything that went through the plan commission, all that, he's now okay with that?
Yeah, he's okay with the drainage situation.
I just want to say I have a personal connection. I helped organize a fundraiser for them after the fire, and I've gotten to know the family, and I'm glad to see them headed in the right direction.
I do have one more question for Director Gotti. As far as the drainage goes, there are references in there about taking water out to Pebble Creek. I mean, are we literally talking about taking it straight to the street, or are we putting it in the sewer? So it's going in the sewers, it's not just conveying over land, is it going through, it's conveying through pipes?
And also the downspout is supposed to carry water in the same direction.
I'm sorry, Director Gotti, the downspouts are going into the sewer?
In the drainage swale to the north and carry the water towards Pebble Creek, away from the neighbor's property.
Okay.
With the storm sewer on Pebble Creek.
Okay. All right, so any other questions? And of course, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Burrian?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Hall?
Okay, motion carries. So now to the second half of it. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-050, an ordinance granting a variance to permit vinyl siding on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of exterior construction standards requiring that stone or brick material cover 100% of the aggregate total area of the first floor or story exterior walls, exclusive of doors, windows, and associated trim. 75-67A, applicability and scope, type of building and structure of Chapter 75 buildings of the Code of Tacoma, Glen, for certain real property located in the R5 Single-Family Residential District, 14317 South Pebble Creek Drive, Homer Glen, Illinois.
I so move.
Trustee Sweet. Second. Trustee Pasmino. Discussion?
Oh, no, just like I said a little earlier, almost every house in that area was built 30 years ago or so, and has vinyl siding. So I think they're just trying to replace what they had previously.
Just trying to make it fit in the subdivision. Okay, any other discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holst? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Burrian?
Aye.
Trustee Pasmino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Go ahead and build your house. Number 5. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 19-043, an ordinance approving 1, a preliminary and final plat of subdivision, 2, special use permit for a planned unit development, 3, special use permits for an automobile service station, B, drive-through establishment, C, outdoor storage of merchandise, and D, 24 hours of operation for a certain real property located in the C3 General Business District at 15930 West 159th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, subject to the following conditions and sign variances. Condition: no semi-trailer truck shall be parked long-term on the subject property. A no long-term trucking parking sign with 1-hour parking limits shall be posted at the turnaround area. Variances: increase the permitted area for a ground sign along 159 from 65 square feet to 107 square feet. Allow the ground sign along 159th Street be located at 2 foot from the side property line. C, increase the allowable wall sign area for the retail building from 125 square feet to
248 square feet. Gas and wash, HG 1922 PS. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Gray.
Second.
Trustee Pazmino. Is there a discussion?
I have questions myself. In the past meetings, plan commission, I want the petitioner up here, please. So we could ask questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
It was stated that FEMA is reviewing the zoning floodplain. Where does that stand?
My name is Lyman Tiemann, for your record. I'm the attorney for Glen McHenry, who is the owner-operator of Gas and Wash. Also, we have with us this evening Brian Hertz from MG2A. Brian is our civil engineer, and Scott Pritchett with Arsa Associates, and Scott is our architect on this project. I'd like to have Brian address that, if I may.
Right, because then my other question with that along was the Army Corps of Engineers with the expected wetlands, have they, what's the status on that?
Yes, Brian.
So the floodplain that bisects the 5-acre property is a Zone A floodplain, as you mentioned. And that is going to need to be remapped as part of the project. So there is a compensatory storage area on our plan that is providing storage volume for the floodplain towards the front of the property along 159th Street. And then there's stormwater detention in the back of the property. So those are two kind of separate things. The stormwater detention is the volume that we have to provide for the runoff from our site. But the volume in the front is where the floodplain will get remapped to. It's all based on the final engineering, which has got to be submitted to FEMA and reviewed and approved.
So that has not been done? That's
No, it's
still
based on
in the
final
process.
engineering.
Okay.
Yes.
And the same with the wetlands?
Yes, there has been some wetland work done, and the Corps had seen, the project back 2 years ago when we were here. So that's considerably done.
Okay. During the plan commission, it was stated that I think it was the attorney stated, the business with the diesel is very minimal, according to page 13 of the plan commission minutes, and consists of maybe about 2% of the business. So why are we bothering with putting in special semi-truck lanes if it's such a small amount causing such a big problem?
Well, we know that we're going to get diesel fueling on site because there's a number of vehicles, including landscape trucks and delivery vehicles, that need to have the diesel fueling. And because of the location, we believe that we're going to get some business coming in with semi-trailers. What we're doing by putting the diesel fueling in the back to the north is separating those trucks from the car traffic that's coming primarily on the front of the station. There will be some diesel fueling on the outside of the 12 fueling stations in the front of the building, at the outside aisles to that, and those will be used primarily for the smaller vehicles that use diesel fuel also.
Oh, I understand that. Well, okay, talking about the semi-truck, what provisions are you putting in, have you checked with the IDOT? Because I've talked to Springfield, I've talked to Will County, there's a lot of misconceptions of what type of semi-trucks can be actually on Gower and how far in.
Yeah,
I mean, are you checking with Springfield IDOT?
Our engineer has been doing some of the preliminary work with IDOT. Nothing is finalized yet with IDOT, but bear in mind, if we don't get the permit from IDOT, the project doesn't get built. So IDOT needs to approve what we're doing in terms of the entranceway just immediately north of 159th Street. So that will be all worked out, just like the Corps of Engineers permitting and some of the other permitting that has to be done.
Okay. And when there's a big concern about any type of parking, as the pictures that we have seen from other stations, and that happens. They do like a drop yard, a Pony Express thing, one way for the other, and they use these different areas for that. So who monitors that? that's on private property, and you're not gonna have a
Right.
clerk, making $10 an hour to go out there and tell them to move.
Well, we're discouraging any kind of long-term parking by posting signs prohibiting long-term parking, and we're also posting signs for 1 hour parking for truck traffic. Typically, the trucker will pull in for the fueling, go inside, maybe inside 10, 15 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer, but we're not in any event trying to encourage parking on site. If there's abuse of the parking regulations, our people, if it's something that we can't resolve internally, we certainly have the authority to call the police and do whatever is necessary to have these people vacate the property. But if you look at the site, there really is no place to do any kind of long-term parking on there, and we're certainly not encouraging that. We don't want it. We don't want the long-term parking. We want the people to come in, buy their fuel, buy whatever they're going to purchase inside the store, and then be on their way. We're not doing anything on site that would encourage any long-term parking.
Well, when the other petitioner was here not too long ago, he actually stated that there was room for 12 in queue, which would provide a lot of parking because everybody's not going to be in queue.
Yeah, I don't know who the other petitioner was.
Because, I mean, the footprint is about the same, it's not expanding.
Yeah, I can have our engineer address that in terms of what space might be available, but, and I'm not familiar with the last petition that was up before you. I was not involved in that at all.
Right, I understand.
Brian, do you want to comment on the parking?
The way the site design is provided, and if you look at some of the turning templates that we had to do, there's just not a lot of room on this site for trucks to park and still have room for truck movements on the site. So, I mean, yeah, we're trying to discourage any sort of, long-term parking because there's simply not room.
Okay. And unless, maybe I have a couple of questions after maybe a few other people, but as part of the conditions, I do believe that idling has to be addressed because I understand our idling ordinance does not apply to private property. So who is going to, in this 1 hour so-called parking limit, they could be idling there for an hour. They could be idling there for an hour. So how is that? That has to be addressed in the conditions of this motion, that there should be no idling unless they're in queue to pump diesel.
Yeah, the idling, most of the time the trucks are going to idle when they're fueling. And that's something we understand, and I think it's something you understand. We're not, again, looking for somebody to pull off to the side and leave the truck run for an extended period of time. If you want to add something to the special use permit that would prohibit any long-term idling, I certainly don't have a problem with that. I don't know whether or not you have village ordinances that prohibit that currently. You may already on file, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about the idling aspect, but Trustee Sweets' issue. I think one of the things that can be done, this happens a lot with shopping centers and parking lots, with private property, is there's usually some sort of agreement in place that allows the village and the sheriff's department to enforce those ordinances on that, even though it's private property, but to enforce it as if it was a public.
Right, and we're certainly not opposed to that. I mean, it's something we can, talk between the attorneys and try and put something together that would grant the authority to the police department to come on site and do some enforcement.
Yeah, we are currently, just to Trustee Sweet's point, we are not really currently going out of our way to make sure that nobody's idling up at Catlar or any of those other places that the gentleman who was just here about the garage. If you've seen that piece of property, either from the aerials that we have or in person, there are 30, 40 trucks on that piece of property. They can get them all they want. We are not being told about that necessarily, nor are we going out of our way right now or any other day in this room to say, we've got to stop that. So I understand your point. I understand the resident's point that we have to make sure that we take care of that. But I don't think we take care of that in this piece of legislation. I think we take care of that a little bit higher up the food chain. We take care of that in our ordinances so that goes from corner to corner in our village. So I fully agree that we should be doing that, but we should be doing that everywhere. kind of like what the attorney said too, making sure we have those provisions in there that we can go on, or we can send a lieutenant on to private.
Right, and I think the thing that's important is, in terms of our business operation on site, it's certainly not to our advantage to allow truckers to be sitting there for an extended period of time, because all that does is prevents other people from coming in and using the property. And we're there to sell fuel, we're there to sell merchandise from within the store. We're not there to create a parking facility for trucks. So we will cooperate, obviously, with the village, and we'll do whatever is reasonably necessary to make sure that doesn't happen.
I just wanted to address that as well, and I think that was very well said on both counts, and it needs to be addressed village-wide. Illinois State already has a statute against idling. Trucks and buses, heavy trucks and buses over 8,000 pounds are limited to 10 minutes per hour. I think this condition where it says no long-term truck parking can also include no overnight truck parking. And it is an enforcement issue, and I think as long as we address that whole thing, that allows us that cooperative thing. This subject has also come up on the Public Safety Committee. I've talked to people I know who are truck drivers, and an 18-wheeler truck empty is over 7,000 pounds. The problem gets to where if they don't have the scales to prove that they're over 7,000 pounds, the judge throws the ticket out. So if the judges are not willing to enforce it when it gets to the actual final process, there's not a whole lot we as a village can do. And it really isn't fair to shortchange the property owner trying to sell the property, the developer trying to develop it, and shortchanging the village from a revenue standpoint because the judges at the county won't enforce the law.
And I think another thing was, I believe it was mentioned in the staff report, but it certainly maybe will help with the existing situation you have with the truckers on Galbraith Road. Number one, I've noticed from the report that VJ attached to his report this evening is that the Sheriff's Department has been doing a pretty good job, it appears, in cutting down on the truck traffic traveling north and south on Galbraith Road. They've issued a number of tickets, and they've gotten those numbers way down from 2017 to 2019. But the way we're set up, if a trucker makes that turn onto Galbraith going north, and then it occurs to him that, gee, I can't go further north because of the weight limitations, and he's trying to avoid those overweight tickets, at least now he has an opportunity to go through our property, make the turn, come back down south on Galbraith Road without traveling further up north and standing the chance of getting ticketed for overweight further up north. So he could make the loop through our property, come back to 159th and go east or west, whatever suits him. But I think this will help the situation you have there. But the primary problem, I think, is that you really just need to make it clear that you're going to enforce the truck traffic weight limitations on Galbraith Road. And truck drivers are kind of a curious crowd, because once the word gets out, I think that county police are out there issuing tickets on a regular basis. I think you'll see, and you have seen over the last couple of years, a dramatic decrease in the amount of truck traffic on Galbraith Road.
And I don't think it's necessarily a line item, but we are being allowed the easement for our monument sign on the front of the property. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
We're being allowed the easement on the corner of the property for our monument.
For the sign? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, if you look up the site plan on the screen, there's a 20-foot deep easement at the corner.
Okay. Any other questions on it?
Any other questions? Glen, do you want to come up and say anything? Glen is the owner of Gas and Wash, and he's the one that's going to be developing and operating the fueling service facility.
Hi everybody, I'm Glen McHenry. Nice to be back again. Just a couple comments. I didn't see the pictures about the other location in Mokina, but we do park trucks in other locations. it's allowed. It doesn't seem to be a problem or overwhelming. I've never seen the switching of trailers anywhere. Maybe out in Joliet, we have a couple real truck stops, travel centers there that they might switch a trailer there, but never seen it in gas and wash. There wasn't enough trucks over at 159th and Gallagher to create the problems that we're talking about. We have the same amount of traffic in other locations, and trucks don't line up. Fuel gets up the need and go. It's these other guys mentioned it too. We're here to sell products and people move on. We're not here to park trucks and let them run all night. There's nothing in it. So the 2% thing, just for a little clarification, is 2% of the traffic. These the larger trucks are larger purchases, of course, but there's not an overwhelming amount of trucks. A lot of the diesel fuel is the smaller trucks. Okay, so in any ordinance, we're here to follow whatever ordinances are in place. Again, we don't want the truck parking and the trucks idling. We're going to be a good neighbor, and we're looking forward to be a part of Home Glen. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? Just to follow up on Attorney Hanson's comment, I would like to explore that ability for that agreement. I think that would be an extra step here. I have no reason to believe they won't be gas and wash, and Mr. McHenry won't be good neighbors within the town. I also tend to agree with Trustee Sweets that, you know, we're going to count on a clerk to run out and keep shooing the trucks away. I'd like to have some sort of work on an agreement for some sort of enforcement there that goes beyond just that. But all in all, this is a piece of property that this will be the third time we're approving a development for it. And while I can understand the concerns of the neighbors that have come to all of these meetings and all these various projects we've approved, there is a right for someone to build on a piece of property that, and there's a right for the landowner to, who's been very patient through this process, right? Again, as I said, this will be the third project that we've approved at this corner. This is the one that I think is most likely to get done, and that's a good thing for both the developer and the landowner. I share in the worry of some of the truck issues, but we have to keep these as two distinct issues. One is this plan, right? Another is the problem on Gallagher Road. And while we want to put the two together, they're legally not together. This is on this piece of property. And it's, you know, it's no secret that I don't think anybody here loves the idea of truck refueling or the potential for trucks to be stopping and dealing with some of the potential headaches. But it is when you take that aside and you put it into two very distinct issues, one, the development, and two, the other issues that are currently existing without this development, I think we have to keep those two separate, and that's our job here. So for us, it's look within this plan, but at the same time, work on some things that can help put some additional teeth to make sure we don't have these problems, and it's just not a, hey, we're a good neighbor, and we won't have that problem, and once we approve it, we may have that problem. So I would just think that's an important part of this that I'd like to follow up on. I agree on similar issues already existing in town, and I'm all for any conversations to address these things at a larger level. But again, I think we got to keep two things separate. And that's where I base my vote. I will say this community has been very accommodating on the back and forth through this project. There's been changes that he's done from an aesthetic standpoint, which I commend him for, that I think helped make this, because as Mrs. Booth said, this is the entrance to Homer Glen. It just is. It's that corner, and it's the only corner we have. So I think some of this, from the aesthetic standpoints of the development, helps set the tone for everything else we hope to attract around that. And look, I mean, it is around that. There's going to be more development around it, and it's going to continue down 159th Street. So that's my thinking on it, of having to keep these two issues separate. While I don't love the idea of it, it's something that we've approved now. This will be the third time in various different ways, but this is the one that I think has the best chance, and so I'm an aye.
Okay.
Well, Mayor, for the third time, I will say again, I do not like the village to become a magnet for more semi-trucks. And, you know, I don't have a problem with gas station, car wash put into Dunkin' Donuts, but there is a big issue with the semi-trucks. And that is part of that line. That is part of the issue.
Well, you still have them getting off of 355, paying a toll. They have to pay a toll to get back on 355. I don't think you're going to see as many trucks as what everyone's thinking right now, because you don't see them in the first place. So this is one of those things that, as Trustee Varian just got done saying, it's something that we have to keep an eye on while we're doing this. We keep an eye on every gas station that's in our village. I don't care what they do outside our village. But we got to pay attention to what they're doing in ours and follow through, and we can amend the ordinances needed.
Mayor, could I just real quick, just to make sure it's on the record? I know when the attorney was speaking, he said he's certainly open to that sort of potential agreement for enforcement within public property or within private property. I just want to make sure that Mr. McHenry, that is something that, just not your attorney speaking, that's something that you would agree to?
Correct, I support that.
Thank you.
So, is there anything else? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Burden?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz?
Aye.
Trustee Kazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Number 6, approval for Ace Pyro. Is there a motion to approve the Ace Pyro LLC contract for 2020 Homer Community Festival fireworks display in the amount of $40,000?
So moved.
Trustee Gray?
Second.
Trustee Sweet? Trustee Holtz? Discussion?
Mayor, I'd just like to, I think most of us already know this, we talked about this a little bit in our committee of the whole, but this is for the fireworks which are blown off during the annual Homer Fest event. It's been a tradition in the village, everybody looks forward to it. This cost is escalating, and we are certainly aware of that. It's gone up over the last couple of years. Again, we talked about that in the committee of the whole. Prices are changing in China. Tariffs are potentially going to impact it going forward. So while we get, and we are cognizant of the fact that this price is going up, if it continues to escalate, we are going to have to make some decisions on either the length of the show or the content of the show, but we can talk about that at a future point. What we're trying to do right now, by putting this in, even though the event is until June, we're hoping to save some money actually right now, keep this at $40,000 right now. If we go beyond, I think it's November 1st when they'd like to sign a contract from us, but there's a point in December where they're going to start getting increases in both product and potential tariffs are going to kick in. So we'll actually save a little bit of money right now. We'll lock this pricing in, and then we can do our homework for the 2021 event, you know, and see what the impacts are. So.
No, they're saying that hopefully this war on tariffs will be done by November.
That's all.
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion on that? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Pazzino?
Aye.
Trustee Burden?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve a change in the village personnel policy to increase the maximum PTO carryover from 10 days to 20 days?
So moved.
Trustee Varian,
Second.
Trustee Gray, discussion. All this is, it's time that the employees have already earned, and they can set it aside. So this way, God forbid, something happened, whether they got sick, or they had to take some time off, or, I don't know, babies or whatever. They've got 20 days to do it with no extra money coming out of the business fund.
Yeah, I'd just like to add on to that, Mayor, that is absolutely correct, and we did discuss this in pretty much in depth at AMF, and at first we were a little bit hesitant on this, all of us were, because this looked like another thing that you read in the paper all the time about governments giving out, excessive benefits and, over-promising, and that's not what this is at all. After some really tearing it apart amongst all of us at the committee meeting, we kind of arrived at, this is a bucket that all the village employees can fill with 20 days that they've earned and they're entitled to, but they can fill it with no more than 20 days. So it's not something that when somebody retires in 10, 20, 25 years, they're gonna have a bucket full of 2,000 days that we're gonna be on hook to pay. If they're here for 25 years, and we certainly hope everybody is, it will still be 20 days. That's it. That's all they can put in that bucket. So this just gives them the opportunity, like you said, to have a back cushion so they don't have to go take time off without pay. They can maybe bank a few days, but it's not a bank without limits. There's definitely limits.
Correct. Any other questions on that?
I think, Trustee Varian, you can explain it, how you explained it to me, because that really doesn't make sense where that IML kickoff, or so really they go without, they don't have to go without 2 weeks without pay, right? So wasn't there like a 2-week gap between the 10?
Yeah, I was just going off our packet, and I think that's the basis of this is IMRF disability. It takes 30 days to kick in, and right now, if they're able to hold 10, this bumps it to 20, which is 5 days in a work week, it's the month.
That's
Makes them
exactly
whole,
correct.
so that an employee under an IMRF disability wouldn't have to go 2 weeks without a paycheck.
That's correct, yes. We're literally asking to change one word in the approved policy, which is to have the carryover from 10 to 20. It'll make us a more competitive employer, and it'll give a safeguard for any potential long-term illnesses that staff could incur.
Yeah, I would simply say the scenario in which somebody has some sort of disability, to think that they'll get a paycheck for 2 weeks and then go 2 weeks without a paycheck while they're waiting for it to kick in is, especially in an already traumatic situation. I think it, so, yeah, I think Trustee Grant had a very good clarification, because at first glance, I could, you could see that it's,
Yeah. I think we're all there.
yeah.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Holtz? Aye. Trustee Rogers?
Aye. Trustee
Sweet? Aye. Trustee Burden?
Aye.
Trustee Pazzino?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to waive the formal bidding process and approve an agreement with Landscape Supply, Inc. for the fall 2019 Public Parkway Tree Planting Program at a not to exceed amount of $62,785?
I so move.
Trustee Sweet,
Second.
Holtz, discussion.
Wait, I'm sorry, you have a total of what we have?
$62,785.
62,875, oh, is that what you read?
It's actually 875.
Yeah, there's a typo.
There's a typo.
There's a typo on the script.
So it's a $10 typo.
So it's just for clarification, $62,875.
Manager Robinson, how are we doing with, how are we doing with, the company? I hear they were really good in the past and.
They've consistently been our lowest bidder every year.
There's been no problems reported. I took this process over from Sue Styler, who had been handling it, and she always loved working with Landscape Supply. We had asked the advice of the A&F committee a while back to do this way for this year, because they had approached us and offered us the same cost per tree for the trees that we had last year, and A&F said we should proceed by doing it this way, so bringing it to the board.
Thank you.
If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
All right, is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Kazmino?
Aye.
Trustee Gray?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Holt? Aye. Trustee Berman?
Aye. Motion carries. Is there any new business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Old business? Sorry. All right, it's old business first. It says I old business.
You're right, it does.
All right, is there any old business? No? Okay, now is there any new business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We received an email last week, the board members did, and mentioned in it that an opt-out ordinance was being drafted for the board's consideration on November 13th. And I would like the board to consider...
Regarding cannabis.
Sorry, regarding the retail sale of cannabis within the village. And I would like the board to consider issuing a resolution to put it on the ballot in March to let the voters decide. I also would like the board to consider passing an ordinance to implement the 3% local sales tax, just in case, if we do not enact an ordinance in the village, if we change our mind at some point in 2020, then we are able to tax it. And this is on the small, slim chance that the village might actually see a dispensary. So just to sort of, kind of cross our T's and dot our I's, what I would hate to see is that we put forth an opt-out ordinance with almost no public discussion. I mean, aside from the workshop, there really hasn't been an opportunity for the residents of the village to weigh in. And so I'd like to see the board.
No, I don't agree with that. All the other villages around here have opted out. It's not like a permanent thing, and I don't think we should put it on our referendum.
Are you talking about a binding referendum?
No,
or
not
advisory?
Yes.
And if we wait until March, wouldn't that kind of leave the door open without any safeguards?
That's
From
right.
January until March?
That's
Okay.
correct.
If we don't have a mechanism in place on January 1st, are we tacitly allowing retail sales without any safeguards?
You would probably want to do something in your zoning ordinance to make sure that if you were to go that route, if the referendum passes, and you guys, so say it's an advisory referendum.
But wouldn't we have to prohibit it right now so that we close that door from January 1st until March referendum or whenever an implementation?
You don't necessarily would have to prohibit it, but what you can do is amend your zoning ordinance so that you have the control. Under any circumstances, your zoning ordinance is going to provide it as a special use or conditional use. So you will have the ability to say yes or no. It's going to come to this board whether or not something goes in. That's first and foremost. But then if the referendum, if it passes, to Trustee Holtz's point is that if this board decided, yes, we do want to go forward with that, the 3% tax, it's already going to be a year behind. So say the referendum passes in March, so you're looking at April. So now 3% tax, you're not going to be getting anything until spring of 2021 at the earliest. So that's the point. It's a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Thank you.
So we don't necessarily have to make a decision tonight, but I would like to see that also included in the discussion at the November 13th meeting, not just strictly opt-out. And, I noticed that we surveyed, the residents through our new survey function about what kind of special events do you want to see in the village. We could survey the residents about how they feel about the sale and taxing it. I just feel like there hasn't been enough local discussion between the board and the residents.
Wouldn't that fall under maybe a committee of the whole or a workshop then instead of rushing straight to a referendum? I think might be a little bit of an reaction to.
I'm just all for discussing
Sure.
publicly as an option.
I would be for bringing something forward to do a workshop on. I'm not really crazy about a referendum myself. That's me.
And I agree.
I mean, we have until December 16th, I believe, is the deadline for getting on the ballot.
I'd have to check, I don't know the exact date, but I'd have to check.
We'll discuss, we'll do a workshop and we'll discuss this first before we put anything up there. We'll put something on the ballot for a referendum for power. So, but I think that we should look into it. We don't want to lose anything that we shouldn't be losing, but at the same token, everyone's preference is different on this. So, okay, is there any other new business? And I need a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.